Hello, everyone. Welcome to the May 2022 Environmental Commission meeting for the City of Annapolis Environmental Commission. I want to welcome everyone and want to have everyone maybe introduce themselves. My name is Randy Kenyatta Rao Jr., resident of Eastport and lifelong Annapolitan.
Hi, Allison Colden, Commission Vice Chair, Ward 7.
I'm Ann Stevenson, member, and Ward 2.
Jeremy Hansen, and from Ward 5.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Racine. I'm with the City of Annapolis, work out of the City Manager's Office for Resilience and Sustainability.
Welcome, Racine. How are you doing today?
Hi, Randy. How are you?
Good.
How's everyone doing? Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Figure we just jump right into things. I know everybody's probably, got life going on today. It seems like everything's happening today. Is it just me or in my life? This month, I know it's a busy time of year in May and June, so won't waste any time. I did send out the agenda just recently, just in case anybody hadn't had a chance to see it in the Google folder. And I think we'll start to try to send just a reminder out a little earlier than, so I will be getting more proactive on that regard. And yeah, so Allison, did you have anything before we get started? Okay. So in regards to our amount of members here to be able to vote on anything, is that of how we looking with that? Cool. All right, cool. So we'll go ahead and proceed. In the minutes, I'm assuming have been accepted from last month. Is that a check on that too? Is that something we have to vote on?
Yeah, we need to vote on the meeting minutes that Ann put together.
Well, is all that vote in favor to accept the minutes? I will vote. If I'm able to vote, I'll vote.
Aye.
All right.
Hi.
I was only there for a few minutes, but
Okay, cool. So moving right along, we'll go into the.
Can I just interrupt for a second? Racine, do you have access to the document to finalize it for Hillary?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was gonna say that I have a copy that you sent, and I can send that to Hillary for the AEC.
Super cool. Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else have anything else? Cool. So the first thing on the agenda today, is just, we had our call to order, our roll call, approval of the minutes, and we'll move right along into reports from committees or members. And does anybody want to volunteer to go first? And what committees? Do we all know what committees we are? Have we confirmed that placement for everyone?
I think we do need to review that, Randy.
So we can just, just go with who's here, I guess. That way we'll have that situated. So I know that there was different categories, right, that we were selecting from. Does that sound correct? Yeah.
I don't know, Allison will remember how that's reflected in the 2022 priorities. We kind of had two categories of assignments. We had sort of subject area, like tracking legislation and tracking development and blah, blah, blah. And then we had specific assignments to community organizations. And I think that we were going to sort of reduce the list of assignments so we could potentially be more successful at completing our assignments. But I'm not quite sure where we're at, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I do remember. Go ahead, Allison.
I think the other thing that was reflected in our 2022 priorities document was wanting to better connect with other advisory commissions and organizations within the city. So I think maybe if we want to take some time to go through which ones are the highest priority and make the most sense, ones that stick out are planning and zoning and historic preservation and a couple others. So looking at adding a couple that would increase our coordination with other organizations in the city, and then figuring out which ones we might want to drop off the list is, I think, where we left it when we had the priorities discussion last time.
Thank you very much. And I do recall that. So do we, are we looking at, do we want to all be looking at something for that, to go through the kind of discussion? Or is it just
Do you need a copy of the priorities? I can present that if that's going to be helpful to anyone.
Yeah, that would be, it may be helpful. What do you think, Allison?
I think what you may be looking for, which I've just pulled up, and I can share my screen if you'd like, is the list we had from 2021 of assignments. Is that what you're looking for? Yeah, okay. Give me one moment. Okay. Is this showing up as the correct screen for you all, our 2021 task leads? Yeah, okay. So these are the 4 categories that Anne was referring to: development, legislation, DEIJ, and climate change and resiliency. And then this is the list of specific groups that we were coordinating with and tracking, which included some already within the city itself, like the Waterways Cabinet, but also you can see here a good number of our local nonprofit organization and community organization partners as well. So that's what we have, Randy. I don't know if you want to discuss that further, but that's what we currently have. Got
it. Yep. And yeah, we can start there. I'm sorry. I just got off the phone with Paul. He said he couldn't find the link, so I'm just emailing that right this second. Like 30 seconds here.
And I apologize. I mean, not Anne. Allison, can you make that just a little bit larger?
How's that, Racine?
Much better for my old eyes. Thank you.
For sure.
All right. And are you able to type right into that? Whoever pulled this up?
Yes, I can. Okay. I'm happy to take notes on this document.
All right, cool. I just realized my name has an extra L. My last name. Okay, so it looks like, thank you. It looks like everybody here looks to be, situated somewhat. So do we want to stick with some of these and then add some community organizations that we want to focus within those different tasks? Does that sound about correct?
Well, I mean, respectfully, Mr. Chair, we never managed this.
Okay.
So if you want to add other stuff, I sort of suggest that we cut some here. And then I think we need to just sort of look for the instances of Kate and Bevan and just make sure that they have, if that's a priority area, that they have a replacement, like to review the development things.
Yeah.
I usually scan the development email and the planning commission agendas, even though I'm not assigned to it. But you know what, Racine, I haven't gotten the monthly email for a couple of months,
Is that for the projects that are going on throughout the
yeah.
city? Okay, that's something that always came from Sally, and I didn't even think about that. I will investigate and see what I can find as an update for you.
Yeah, do you mind? Because,
yeah.
We should make sure that Randy or Allison or whoever it is signed up for that email or,
Okay. Yeah,
and-
I'll get back to you guys before Friday, the close of business on Friday, and with as much of an update as I can.
You're not going to be able to get anyone to answer your emails in the next 2 days.
Well, I'll do my best. We'll see what happens.
Next
If
week.
nothing else, I'll tell you I'm still working on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so maybe this is something we could, me and Allison can kind of maybe chip away at this, and we can
Yeah.
put this
and
as something for next time we meet.
it would be worth hearing from Paul and Bill what they want to do. And next month is my last meeting. So we shouldn't assign me to too many things.
We need new members.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's on the list of Alice, of your follow-up for the priorities. But when we get to that, we can sort of think about if me reaching out as someone who's cycling off would be useful in addition to you all reaching out.
Got it. And maybe we can talk about putting together some sense of an outreach plan. Maybe, I'm sure Ann you may have some networks or some.
Can I just tell you, 6 months ago or something, I wrote to 3 people who I could think of. Not a single one even responded to my email.
Yeah, it's tough.
No.
And what I've been learning is that everybody I know, nobody actually lives in the so I'm like, damn. So, but I'm sure there's some people out there. So we just got to put our heads together.
Mr. Chair, before we move away from this and work on it in the interim between this and our next meeting, maybe if there's anything that we want to get feedback on now. So for folks who are on the meeting tonight, what is missing from this list that you think is important to be added for folks we should be coordinating and communicating with on a semi-regular basis?
A great point. And does anyone else here want to add onto that? I can speak to where my name is first, if that helps. But does anyone else see some things?
Randy, and
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
I'm well. Thank you for the link. And we'll miss your contributions. You've been a great contributor for a couple of years. Are you cycling off because you have other things, or are you, for lack of a better term limit? Is your term expired?
My term is expiring and I'm not renewing because I haven't had the time to give to this like I should. And so I think.
Oh, fair enough. I was just curious. In regards, you'll have big heels to fill, but perhaps there's somebody in the Annapolis Green world that, that's a pretty active group, and maybe someone in there who wants a little larger platform might be available. So I can talk to Elvie and Lynn.
That would be great. Maybe they would be willing to put something in their newsletter about our vacancies.
Yeah, and they probably can
Which there are
steer us.
some.
They could probably steer us to a couple of their more active people. Well, we'll look forward to having you back on the committee when your son is off at college.
Sounds good.
And yeah, I will make note of that. And maybe there's some other ones as well we could, you know, maybe work together on as far as the outreach plan to put out some ads, so to say, in some of these environmental organizations, newsletters, publications, journals, especially ones that really are known and target the city limits. What I did notice was maybe also adding some of the some maybe some type of grassroots organizations as well within some of those, so that maybe could add to the list of liaison organizations. So I'm sure we can add many more to that. So we'll have such somewhat of a more robust document to look at by next month to go through that more. But does anybody else want to add anything to that as far as, you know, the different liaisons and organizations?
Racine will know better, and I just see Bill's name, so he can also chime in. I think if we're culling the list, one that we can't cull is the Naval Academy, because I think that that's specified in the city statute that we coordinate with them, something like that. Bill will remember, and so will Racine.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Anne, will you repeat what you just said? I'm not sure what I might know. I missed a piece of what you said.
I don't exactly know what I'm saying, but I think that our charter as a commission includes coordinating with Naval Academy on environmental issues. So I think that that's one organization that we should continue to keep on the list. But I wouldn't be able to speak to any more specifics than that. Bill might, or you may, Racine. Does that seem right to you? Or
I can speak on it a little, yes. Would you like me to do that now? Oh, okay.
no, but I mean, is that right? That it should stay on the list?
I think generally, because Jackie does work with the Naval Academy. The MER project is one project with the Naval Academy that I can speak a very little bit on right now. But yes, we do have interactions with the Naval Academy, I should say. We should probably be able to give you updates on, and you look so confused. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think what I'm trying to say is that not just staff, but there's some sort of provision that says that the commission should.
Oh,
And,
okay.
And I have the language up in front of me. One of our charters is to liaise with other groups and agencies, and the code specifically lists municipal, county, state, and federal agencies, and initiating and maintaining cooperation with the Naval Academy, volunteer environmental groups, health associations, civic clubs, youth groups, and other interested organizations. So yes, you are right that the Naval Academy is specifically called out in the code.
Okay, but it's kind of like everybody else in the world too.
Yeah.
Thanks for finding that. Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. But as far as, working with the Naval Academy, we do work with Naval Academy, and we can give you updates on that information.
Good.
And Mr. Chair, while I'm here just perusing our city code, one thing that I noticed it does say the agendas of the Planning Commission, Port Wardens, Historic Preservation Commission shall be forwarded in advance to the Environmental Commission. And so technically, I don't know if that means in advance of them being released publicly, or if the public release of those agendas satisfies that requirement. But for me personally, I don't think that that's something that has happened since I've been on the commission. So we might want to speak to Hillary about whether or not that's something that can move forward, because it looks like it's already provided for here in the code and is likely what we have been looking for in our priorities in better connecting with those other boards and commissions in the city.
Yeah, I totally agree, and we'll follow up with her next week on that. I think that's a great point. And now you got me thinking, what else may be there that we should probably review, see whether we can make some alignments. So that's something we can also do. Maybe we could. It may be already there, but maybe it could be added to the Google folder as well for us. And we'll probably. Okay. So, well, does anybody want to weigh in on where they stand on, other than Ann, but you could still weigh in, but on with their division or their department that they're going to be possibly working on. Or some of this organizations or liaison groups that you want to add to those divisions or departments?
Personally, I'll just note, I haven't really been able to keep up very effectively with the groups I'm assigned to right now. For some reason, and I still don't know why, because I've never gotten an answer, I was keeping up with the county commission and I was getting their emails, and then I just stopped getting their emails and agendas and haven't gotten any answers as to why. So I know they have switched to an every other month, so it's not as hard to keep up. I just haven't been able to get back on that cycle with them, or even what their outlook is now that Matt Johnston has moved on from the executive's office. But I assume that commission will keep operating. So I am interested. I can keep trying to get back in the cycle for that group, because it does interest me. But I think at the county level and the city level, I'm more interested in just keeping tabs on the Climate Resiliency Authority. No, that's not necessarily a community group so much as just a quasi-governmental organization. But with the announcement of Dan Neese as the interim or just director, that's one thing I just wanted to throw out there, is we should invite him to a future meeting, give him a little time to get settled, and then hopefully he can find some time to meet with us.
He's the director of what?
The County and City Resilience Authority.
Okay.
That was just announced in the last few weeks, exactly when. And then for the Spot Creek Conservancy, I've made some contact and just haven't been able to keep up in touch with them very well.
Okay.
And that's on me.
Cool.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, Dan has spoken to our group, and I'm sure Paul and Bill will weigh in when that authority was envisioned and some of the preliminary discussions around the city docs. So he knows us in our group, and I don't think an invite would come totally out of the blue when the time is right for our organization.
I agree.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeremy. So what it sounds like I've heard you say is that you kind of you share what divisions or departments that you're still kind of still some interested in, and you're gonna look into this new activity going on with the county as a means to keep tabs on them, and, as it relates to the climate resiliency authorities. That sound right?
You know, I hope we get an invite out to Dan to come to a future meeting, and not saying it's another group to add to the liaison list. And just as far as the one places where I'm listed now, I think if I would like to see some new members come on board, and then I'm willing to reshuffle or reconfigure for my names might be, especially on the Spa Creek Conservancy. Maybe we'll get a new member who already has ties and relationships with that group. Can keep us more informed.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Allison.
Thanks. I think another suggestion might be for those who are liaisons or anybody on our group to work with the folks that they are assigned to go to that organization to make a presentation. I have a nagging feeling that it may also have something to do with those organizations or their memberships not knowing about our commission or what we do, and our role in helping to advise the city on environmental issues. So it may open the door for the organizations to come to us more too on their issues of concern if their leadership and membership understands what our organization is and what we do. So that might be a way to have it happen a little bit more organically than us trying to have to keep up with the agendas and meeting times for 4 or 5 different organizations individually.
So you're saying that maybe that could be a document that's created that could be shared, you think, or just like you said, more organic?
It could be a document, but I was just thinking that whoever is assigned the liaison could set up a time specifically to talk to that group at one of their meetings, as opposed to always having those groups come to us, if that makes sense.
Yep, makes sense. Maybe that could be a first task also for each of us in our different areas to just kick things off with a meeting. And maybe we could put a deadline on maybe the next 2 months or something like that. And then that way, by the 3rd month, we could all come back with some level of a report that could speak to, you know, what took place or what was discussed during those meetings. How does that sound to the group? Anybody else got any input on it? Okay, cool. What about you, Paul and Bill?
No, it sounds fine to me.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. All right, and does everybody have access to that document that we're going to be updating that info on? Is that going to be in the Google folder? Allison, you think? Some point?
Yes, it's currently in the 2021 folder, but I will copy it over to our current 2022 folder, so it's all together.
All right, cool. And that way, you all can be able to access it and view it and update it if need be. So that's cool. That way we can have kind of a centralized location for updates as we go on from time to time, even if there aren't anything. Could report on that as well. Okay. So we can put that as a task for next month, for the next meeting. By next meeting, if we could all just check on that. Are we all able to access that Google folder smoothly?
I can't.
Okay. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I can get there.
So Paul, we can talk, offline about how we can figure that out. And it may not be for you, it may not be the Google Drive, it may be a different way to access this information. All right.
Okay.
Cool. And okay. So Paul or Bill, do you have any input on well, we can put that off till you guys review it if you want till next time, but next time we'll be looking at the different reports from committees from whatever reports from members of the different committees that there are. We'll just go down the list and hopefully we'll have some stuff to talk about. The 2022 priorities and activities and duties. Allison, did you have some input on that?
Oh, I was just going to say I did attend the last Environmental Matters Committee meeting and could share a couple of items from that. But if you're ready to move on the agenda, that's fine as well.
Go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I seem to have closed out my notes, so I just need to get back to that, and then I'll start in. So the first discussion was with the Annapolis Fire Department about the use of PFAS, the polychlorinated chemical, known as forever chemicals, and they're primarily found in things like firefighting foam, firefighting equipment, other things that are made to be flame retardant, sometimes in things that are not, like food packaging materials, fabrics, and things like that. So there was a discussion about replacing both the foam that the firefighters use for training, as well as the equipment that they use. And the committee seemed generally supportive of that. These are chemicals that don't break down in the system. And so the only way to really address them is to not use them and not introduce them in the first place. The only thing I think relevant for us is they did discuss at the very end the possibility of using funds from the Watershed Restoration Fund to basically purchase replacement for the PFAS foam. There is apparently a suitable replacement available on the market now. They would just need to replace the stores that they have. The second presentation was from the Director of Public Works. It was a general discussion about a number of different topics, but maybe of interest to our organization was a long discussion about the stormwater program and where it's come from and its progress. And basically, the discussion talked about a number of things. One, they talked a lot about street sweeping and a pilot program that the city would like to pursue to purchase a new street sweeper that's more effective than what they have now. There was a budget request this year from Public Works for an additional compliance inspector and stormwater manager. And also the changes that were previously discussed to the inspection reporting and compliance checklists for development projects has apparently been developed and put into place. So those things were, I think, in response to some of the issues that we tracked closely at the Parkside Preserve project. And it sounds like those are moving forward. I did understand, based on our previous discussions with the Deputy City Manager Gild and others, that we would be participating in the development of those items, but it seems like they have moved forward on their own within the city staff and aren't being implemented. So I guess that's still a benefit. And then there was an update from Jackie Gild about the electric ferry moving forward. There's a conversation with a company that builds them in the US, which solves some of the issues with Jones Act and things like that. Composting at Truxton Park, the pilot is now a permanent program. And we talked about the interim ED for the Resilience Authority, and the MIRR project is a topic for later in our agenda. So I will stop there and answer questions if anybody has any.
Well, thank you for staying on top of all that. That was quite a list.
I am happy to do it, Paul. And the next Environmental Matters Committee meeting was moved to June 22nd, and Randy has been invited to that meeting. So we'll have an opportunity to chat directly with our alderman about our priorities.
Okay.
And also we had the Waterways Cabinet meeting too, which much of that was the same things that were talked about. The only addition I would say they brought up was Eric Wyszynski, I think his name is. He brought up this new water access plan that he's developed for the city. And so, yeah, we had a good talk about that as well. Okay. Thank you very much, Allison. Does anybody want to? So, was that all you had, Allison? So, in regards to the priorities, I know that we had got some sent out an email to the city, and was there an update on how that landed?
No, just some notes of gratitude from several of the members of council for sharing our priorities, and the invitation from the chair of environmental matters to come share our top priorities. So I think before we make that presentation, we'll probably need to pare down the number that we want to take to that committee meeting, or else we'll be there for 4 hours talking about our incredibly comprehensive and important yet very long list.
Got it. So do we want to synthesize that list? Are we still at that process with the priorities? Downsizing it, cutting it down some.
I mean, my thoughts on it, Mr. Chair, are we can maintain the list of priorities that we have just for the purposes of presentation, maybe discuss if there are several in particular that we want to highlight given their maturity for quick action, for example, by members of that committee. So basically prioritizing ones that we think have a legislative bent, or ones that we think are ripe for action.
Yeah, I recall that. Okay. So yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say that I think what we could potentially do, although it would be really useful to follow up with Environmental Matters Committee on recruiting new members. I think that's also one of the things on the list that we can take to Hillary and speak with her sort of outside of environmental matters. And so I would be glad to sort of highlight that priority with her and send her a note as my takeaway from the priorities, since it can sort of accompany a reminder that you guys are going to be down by even one more. Does that sound fair? Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's great idea. And I went to the Annapolis Green Drinks meeting they had at the Market House. I think that was like a week or two ago. And that may also be a good venue to promote, maybe have a table at the next Green Drinks event to promote for a new member. I think that may be some, or maybe she could, Elvia could even do some type of announcement.
Oh, I think that Paul is going to follow up with Elvia, and I was going to follow up with Hillary. Sorry, her last name's not coming to me. Is that okay, Randy?
That's perfect. Good.
Okay.
Cool. Good. So does that square us away on the priorities, you think, Allison? As far as discussion wise? I know there's some stuff we still have to do with that.
Sure. A discussion, or did you want to move into assigning the tasks for the priorities? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Would you like me to share my screen with those?
Yep. Sure. And that's fine. And we'll just go through and kind of go through these. So first ones, the different ones we have, I think it's water, I'm not sure. Yep. What was that? Oh. Water quality, and that being a priority by collaborating with the city staff, reviewing the annual stormwater fee reports, and climate change resilience, urban tree canopy, land conservation improvement. Different options here, development, litter and waste reduction, strengthening the AC. I think that was it. Yeah. So, wait, I think I missed one. Scroll down just a little bit. Okay, no, okay, that was a bullet. So, am I understanding correctly that we're going to go, each one of us is going to attach ourselves to one or more of these different areas? Does that sound correct?
Well, basically, I mean, we're losing Ann, so that's a big gap.
Yeah.
I don't know how many assignments we have and how many willing people, but wouldn't surprise me if somebody ends up with one or two projects.
Yeah. And I mean, if there are gaps, that could even be a kind of a good thing, because that way we could even target some of our outreach, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
When Anne rotates off, we will have 5 members and we have 7 categories of priorities.
Okay.
And I think within the categories, when it's a specific project, I mean, I think there are folks like Bevan and Diane and Kate and me that, like, when it's a specific thing, they can come to the meeting or do that project or weigh in. I think it can, so I can imagine that whoever is the team captain can then recruit other folks for sort of targeted initiatives within that when it's sort of a fit.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what I was envisioning too, Anne, is that you have somebody who's sort of the lead just to make sure that progress continues to be made, but there's probably smaller subgroups that will naturally pop up around various priorities as they move forward.
Makes sense. Bill, did anyone have any thoughts on that?
Well, I was going to ask for the urban tree canopy if there is somebody currently assigned to that category.
There are currently no one assigned to any categories.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. If not today, we're gonna give us some time, if you want time, to review this document and come back with it all filled out by next month. And you can do that by just letting me know, or Allison. We'll just add your names on there in red or something, and then we could have that for next meeting.
Mhm.
So between now and the next meeting, everybody will have selected this. So we give you a week or so, or a couple of days if you want to review it a little bit more strategically, if you like. And just shoot me an email saying I would like to be on the blah, blah, blah. And can go from there. And I think if it sounds, math is right, there'll be 2 missing, right? And that may be the 2 that we end up doing some outreach in for people that have particular kind of skills or expertise, relevancy in those areas. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good to me.
All right, cool.
I'm willing to sort of jump in and assign myself now. And if there's
Sure.
anybody else who feels strongly, not just because the first one is kind of already done, but I'd be happy to jump in on the water quality section, particularly the stormwater fee report, and reviewing all of the BMP things as they come out of the contractors that the city is working with. So unless anybody wants to arm wrestle me for it, I'm happy to step in there.
No, I want it. It's like, no. Nah, I think I don't have any problem with that.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to join her on that? Because we can have more than one on a different thing. Right? But we kind of want to have at least one spread out, right? I mean, one, and then if people want to just select a second, they can. That's where the subcommittee type thing comes in. Is that about right?
Yeah, I'll just offer, if Allison ever needs someone to bounce ideas off of, she can reach out to me on that,
Got it.
on the water quality stuff.
Jeremy, don't you want to jump in on the Resilience Authority one?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll jump in on climate resilience. I think at least on some of those, like the Resilience Authority, but I know I'm not the most up to speed when it comes to that first item, some of the past city resilience plan efforts, and especially the coordination with the Naval Academy. But at least on the Resilience Authority, definitely interested and would like to get more up to speed on all the all the EV stuff that's been rolling out as well.
It sounds like, I mean, that it's pretty new with the resiliency plan, right? How old is that? Does that have a span on it, a lifespan?
I mean, the authority was just passed by the council last year,
Yeah.
like a lot longer ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they don't even have their bylaws written yet. They were just they've hired their CFO, and they announced Dan as. So those are the first two hires, and as far as I know, that's all that's been done so far. But Racine might know more.
Well, that may be work to your benefit, maybe. So yeah, okay. Making some progress here. Well, shoot.
Gonna put him on the spot, Randy.
Yeah, I'm about to jump in the pool too, real quick. I'd like to
Got these two.
like, I feel like I'm playing Jeopardy. Like, oh yeah. I'm sorry, can you scroll down one more time?
Yep.
Okay, got it. I think the last one is maybe something that I could work on, just being in the chair. I think that, it's kind of I think should be a task of mine to try to get new members in. So I think that's something that I could work on with someone else if they want to join me in that task. The E-Track It training is also something that I think that could be good, and I can learn more about that as well. And I think that I could also encourage different collaborations and coordinations with different places and people and things.
You got the job.
I'm just reading this myself. I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
And then I also am leaning toward being a sub member of maybe like the urban tree canopy.
Okay.
Just because of the things I've been doing around Replant Annapolis, and my work dealing with independent contracting for tree installations, tree plantings. So I think that'd be cool. I just recently facilitated the urban tree grant proposal grant for Chesapeake Bay Trust, which was for like I think 600 to $1 million to plant 2,000 to 6,000 trees in public housing communities throughout the city of Annapolis. And so the only challenge that we came in with that, and I'm sure maybe Racine may know about this too, was that a lot of the developments, public housing developments in Annapolis are currently up for renovation. And so in that phase, the last thing they want is trees planted because they may be immediately dug right up. So the only thing that they were in support of was street trees, planting more street trees, which can be costly. But they were willing to work with that, and also communities that were not up for the redevelopment. So we were able to get a letter of support from HACA on that. And so that was cool. So I'd be more than welcome to work with the Urban Tree Canopy. I work with Brian on different things as well. So that's not a problem for me. All right, Bill, and Paul, you up next.
Well, I have an interest in the urban tree canopy,
Okay.
and I've been very neglectful in getting with our liaison, who I hope is still the same person with the Naval Academy, but I will reinitiate that contact.
Awesome. And great. Love it. And was there any other things that you would like to be a sub member of at this time? You want to give it some more thought? Because you can think more about it if you want to.
Well, certainly the litter and waste reduction.
Yeah.
I don't know about all of you, but it seems to me that the amount of roadside litter has increased tremendously in and around the city and elsewhere. It's just amazing how much stuff is lying on the side of the road.
And to be honest, as we all know, being a coastal town, trash is probably one of the most littering and waste is probably one of the most dangerous things that exist that threatens our waterways. So I agree that that should be a big priority. How to
Sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just the last couple of years. I mean, we've probably all seen masks all over the place littered around now. It's almost as, I'd say it's probably more common than plastic bags, at least when I'm walking around.
Most certainly. All right, so moving right along. Thank you, Bill. And Paul, you got any input?
Yeah, a little bit. My interest and a little bit of knowledge is, and for those who've been on the committee for a while, that I said similar thing 5 years ago, but most of you probably saw Jared Littman had increased the size of his solar footprint on his roof at True Value, and I'm a big proponent, trying to use carrots instead of sticks, right? Incentivize or attract people to do the right thing instead of pushing them to do it. And so the economics for people who own rooftops, granted, a lot of the businesses around town rent, think Eastport Shopping Center, Grawls, or whoever. I do not know who owns the compound, but when larger buildings are going to be re-roofed, which happens about every 25 years, not frequent, but if you got 25 big buildings in town, that's one building every year. But most of you, I think, saw the thing. Jared's turning his electric bill from $16,000 a year to zero. He does have financing cost for it, but it breaks even in 7 years, and after 25 years, the rate of return's like over 15%. let alone just being greener. So I'm very keen on that. And that's something I have never got as much done with the city. Bob Agee and I spoke, what I'd like to see it, is when developers come in and they go through the planning, the permitting, I'd sure like them to have their awareness increased on the cost savings, the economic benefit of whether it's geothermal, solar, geothermal and solar are probably the ones you can do most on your own building. You're not really going to put a wind farm on top of a building in Annapolis. But I'd sure like to see developers be more aware of that and be encouraged to, save some money over the long run by having more solar on rooftops and where geothermal does not work well in sandy soil. So that's why it didn't work well at the Market House. It's pretty sandy soil down there. But that's just something I'd like to do. And I don't want the city to force people to do it, but it would maybe be kind of nice if buildings were over X size. It could be maybe us at the environmental committee are made aware of it every month and, try and reach out to some of these developers to get them looking a little bit more. And I realize I'm going on a bit, but there are some notable architects in town who have done a big chunk of recent renovations, whether it's 4th Street or out on Ridgely Avenue in West Annapolis, et cetera. And you ask them about solar and they're like, well, we looked at it, but it doesn't pencil out. And their math is 4 or 5 years old and the price of solar has just plummeted so much. So I just wish more people would do what Jared's doing. And I think all of you saw, you're all invited to the ribbon cutting, June 22nd, the back half of June. But I would just really like to showcase stories like that and heighten awareness. And again, I definitely want to be green, but the way to get people to do it is show them the, longer term cost savings. So that was a lot, but renewable energy, Randy, is what where I have some expertise.
Well, I sent the email back to the person telling them, congratulating them on this project. It hits home for me having, that was the first environmental renewable that I started out my environmental career working in for RER Energy Group, which deals with commercial solar. And they were the first ones to do the projects in Baltimore, like the Domino Sugar project that I think it recently had a burn down or something like that. But yeah, I totally am with you. And I think it's a great project. I think it's a great look for the city. I think that it is, having, tried for years to get different sites to turn solar, whether it be from school systems, buildings, school buildings to, strip malls, et cetera. But it is a thing that is very, it's very interesting in introducing and convincing people that is a cost benefit ratio. And I think that, Paul, if that's something that you're interested in really diving into, we can talk about this offline maybe sometime, is how to really paint that picture.
Yeah. And
churches as well.
Yeah. Well, basically any big rooftop. So not to go on too long, but part of our committee is we all learn from each other. So I will indulge myself and take another minute or two. So here are the real talking points for everybody else who's listening and they're involved with their church or their school or their community building or whatever it is, larger rooftops. And, look at the Annapolis Solar Park's a great success. Here's a couple of points. As I mentioned, thanks to Chinese industrial policy is a big part of it, the dumping, they the Chinese have significantly lowered the cost of a solar panel. So not so good if you're a manufacturer of solar panels in the US, but great if you're an installer of solar panels or a client. So solar panels are a lot cheaper. So everybody says when Hammond Wilson Architecture says we looked at it, but it doesn't pencil out. It was 5 years ago, and the numbers, they're 60, 70% less expensive than it used to be. So that's one talking point, folks. The other two, which are kind of cute, is basically with whether it's a wind farm or in these cases, solar on a roof, you're going to see more urban. You're basically putting a micro power plant on the roof. The fuel's free. In the long run, free is going to win, compared to the price of gasoline or coal or electricity in general. The government's got to subsidize nuclear to keep it going. So, it's you got a little mini power plant on Jared's roof. The fuel's free. It's going to work in the long run. And my final little sound bite / sales pitch for all you, and I'd like you to pass these on when you find yourself in a situation talking to someone who's got some control over big roofs, is unlike oil or natural gas or coal or even falling water, hydro, solar is not a fuel. It's not a fuel. It's a technology. Anybody want to bet against technology in the long run? You phrase it like that, give it the little pause, it's technology, give it a pause, ask them if they want to bet against it in the long run. They're like, well, no, I guess I shouldn't bet against technology in the long run because the costs are going to continue to reduce. And I'm going a little too deep here, but some of you know Dave Blamey and his thin film solar company looks like it's going to work, and it's all U.S. manufacturing, and the cost is going to be even significantly lower. So, this type of stuff 10 years from now, 5 or 10 years from now, could be a layup decision-making wise, right? So anyways, I just wanted to let you know the sound bites. It's a little power plant, your fuel's free. And just bird dog, if you run into people who have control over big rooftops, they should look a little bit more into this. And I'd like to somehow get the city to provide more info, but that's the exact same thing I said 5 years ago, and I haven't got anything done.
Yeah. So which one of these ones you thinking about, Paul?
Which one of what?
Of the different headings that you want to work
between I'm looking at maybe a couple different documents between A and E on the agenda or the other document.
No. On the other document that was just on the screen being shared.
I saw it before and I missed it. So I'll let you. I'm interested in renewable energy, which does fall into development. So I don't see those categories in front of me.
Development was one. Development dealt with kind of. I can read it for you if you want. It says development is dealing with reviewing adequate public facility requirements, increase energy efficiency in new public buildings.
Yeah, that's
private buildings. Lead goal over review and provide feedback on priority development projects. And you can add that. Maybe we could add a bullet that deals with sharing stories, something that gathers their sharing stories to heighten awareness. I think that's what you said, which is a great point. Because honestly, nobody's gonna really catch wind of things unless they make public announcements, unless they make ribbon cutting events, unless they spread the word about these activities that are taking place. And I used to say that as well. So I think that what they're doing could be looked at as a pilot or an example for others that could take the same approach. Putting out press releases and things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I apologize. I think my speaker went mute for a moment if you didn't hear me, but Yeah,
Yeah.
I fit into development well, so I'm
Okay.
happy to do that one, Randy.
Are there any subgroups, any other groups you like to be a sub member of, so to say?
I'll take a look. I'm working off my phone and the
Okay,
font was a little too small, so I can't read them, but
sure,
when I get into a larger screen, I will sign up for another one.
sure. Just shoot me an email and me or Allison will update the document and you'll be good to go. And, and we'll get you a way to, make sure you can get that document and view it. So I'll make sure, I'll make sure I email it to you so it's at the top of your email.
Yeah, thank you. And without going on too much longer, the other area where I do have interest is what I'm calling micro transport. The getting more prevalent, more frequent, easier access from the parking garages to downtown. And that's happening, but already. And but I think that's another area our town would benefit from, particularly, now the parking garage is down. It's great. We got the ferry possibly happening. And as electric vehicles become cheaper and cheaper, why not have a bunch of little ones ripping around, or not ripping around, but moving around town to move people, so there's less concern about parking at City Dock. We got a multi-million-dollar view and we turn it into a parking lot. That's Josh Cohen's line from long ago, but this town could be prettier. It doesn't just have to be a parking spot for everything, so use the garages more, quick little transport vehicles to get people around. That's something else I'm interested in.
Great.
I'll put you under as a sub on resilience, when that's where our city's transit and electric infrastructure priorities live.
Yeah.
And
you and
by the way, I went to the city's transit showcase last week, and I'll tell you, I rode one of those e-bikes for the first time, and that little thing is fast.
Well, we will get a little electric vehicle and we'll start it with a pub crawl, right? That might be a good way to launch it, right? So
Well,
I'm teasing there, but obviously, as the Market House took away some parking spots and they have the outdoor dining, as we're speaking right now, dining under the stars is going on West Street, less vehicles for a while. When you can get rid of vehicles and put entertainment and people together, the economic value is greater, and we just get some affordable little vehicles to move people around. So that's all.
Yeah, great point. And I'll say also that there's so much feedback within the city about these new developments, but I don't really see any platforms other than social media really for people to actually talk about these issues or the challenges or misconceptions and things like that. So I thought about it and I said, wow, this would be a perfect opportunity for us to create these particular types of platforms for people to speak from the community and from the professionals and practitioners standpoint, to speak about it and educate others about it, because that ultimately that's going to equate to more people being educated on how to, all those things you said, how to operate the bikes, how to operate the scooters, why they're there, what are they doing, how are they changing the atmosphere and the greenhouse gas emissions in this area, why is that even important? The literacy, right? The biggest thing is really the literacy, a lot of times, because people, you have to explain things sometimes at a lower level so that they can understand it with all of these big fancy words that we're used to and speak fluently. So that I feel like that's a real opportunity there. Maybe AEC could work with the city COA TV to host a once a month town hall or something like that. Well, I don't know, just to talk about some of these green issues and these new green initiatives and projects, and get the community's feedback so that people can come somewhere and complain, and people can come right there with them engage in intellectual conversation. So
Yeah, and for example, Jared, like most everybody who puts solar on a roof, they've got a little quiet. They've got a little flat screen TV that will be up there eventually, showing how much energy they're producing each day, each month, and how much money they're saving. And because we're unfortunately losing Ann off the committee, I will take the liberty of saying this one more time. Bill O'Leary's only heard it about 80 times. One of the big drivers, the way I look at things, as I said before, carrots, not sticks, and incentives. The term I like is, we all know what yuppies and dinks are. All of us are scummies. Some of us are more scummy than others, but I just called Randy and Ann a scummy. And what that is, scummy is socially conscious, less money's involved. So these, Harvey Blonders and, the other guys who own tons of real estate, they care about money. They care about money. The other stuff is window dressing. But when we can show them economically that renewables are less expensive, that's the victory. So everybody is socially conscious unless money's involved, right? Gasoline's $1 a gallon. Only the Birkenstock crowd's driving a hybrid. It's, $5 a gallon now. People are getting serious about hybrids and EVs. So the overall driver to me is trying to find places where renewables will be less expensive, and then we won't have to push it on people, but people will start to run towards it. That's all.
Got it. And like I said, I think it'd be really cool to really look into ways we can share those stories, like you said, Paul, because that's going to be, honestly, and this is just the social scientist in me, it's just like that sharing stories is going to be more impactful and encouraging for others to get on board with that than the actual statistical analysis of the credits and the actual.
Flat screen TVs in every building that's got solar, and then on the little electric vehicles, they can just have a little bit of signage like, hey, it only costs, $400 a year to run this instead of $800 of gasoline, and, just all the good little things, just a lot of signage for the consumer who's sitting there can read it.
Good. All right. So I think we are all wrapped up as far as us going through the list. Does anyone else need to go? Allison, did we all go?
Yep, I think everyone went, and I'll just mention the only one that we don't have anyone on at this moment is land conservation and improvement. So as we are thinking about recruiting for the AEC, folks who can help us with community green space, gardens, parks, making nature welcoming, those sorts of themes are what is contained in that priority.
Okay, well, now we have a target. I think that's great, right? At least a direction. So maybe we can try to find somebody that has that in their background or something like that. Or a few people within the city limits. Which I think we can. In fact, while we're touching on that, maybe I would like to say that if we could all, each of us, agree to come to the next meeting with 3 names, potentials. You don't have to share the name, but just 3. Or you could share the name. I don't know if I'll share the name. I don't know, but maybe come to the next meeting with at least 3 potential candidates for AEC membership that check all the boxes as it relates to what is required to be a member of this commission. How does that sound to the group? Is that too expansive, you think? Too progressive? 3? What are you thinking? Is 3 too many? Paul? Bill? Okay.
No, I mean, I think it sounds good.
All right, cool. Maybe the name and what ward they are coming from, that should be enough. Is it okay to share the name, you think, Allison? Or you think that should be just left out, just have 3 anonymous members?
I just think if we can all commit to reaching out to 3 people before the next meeting, then we can sort of report out at our next meeting who has indicated interest, so we know after that first round of outreach, how many folks have indicated they might be willing to apply or have applied. That way we can go out from the next meeting and figure out how many more rounds of outreach we need to do. Does that satisfy what you're looking for?
I think that's a great point and great. Yes, I totally agree with that. I'm gonna try to digitize that into my memory, how that went. All right. She's like, I got to think. I don't remember nothing. I don't write down. I'll tell you. Okay, great. So moving right along, we'll move right on into the new business. Racine, do you have a report you want to share, or anyone else on Replant Annapolis today?
Yeah, I just got the agenda a few minutes before the meeting, so I wasn't prepared for this. But what I do know, or what I think is going on right now, is Replant Annapolis. Brian Adams is working with the Watershed Stewards Academy on Replant Annapolis. They have $30,000 to work with. The Watershed Stewards Academy has their first cadre of tree troopers that they're training on tree care, where to, and planting, and how whatever it takes to find places to plant. I'm not sure when they're going to be done with training and when they're actually going to be out trying to actually plant trees, but I'm sure Brian is working with them on locations where trees might be able to go in. But that's the best that I could tell you about Replant Annapolis. I could have given you a little bit better of a report had I been notified, but I can check on it and include it in the minutes if you'd like.
Okay, yes, I think that'd be a good idea. And just for just for going forward, every meeting, we will always want a report on Replant Annapolis.
Okay.
Just
Okay,
for the
good to
future.
know. Moving forward. Okay.
And that's all great news. I'm glad to hear that's shaping up.
Yeah. And I mean, and then there's money for trees. And I don't understand the cost of trees as far as size goes and planting them or not. Brian is, the expert there, but I will look into it and give you an update in the minutes.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Racine. Does anyone have any other feedback, thoughts, or input on Replant Annapolis before we move on to the next one? Okay, cool. And for all those that don't know, Replant Annapolis is a tree planting initiative in the city to plant more tree canopies, trees in residence, homes, and public spaces. Does that sound about right, Racine?
It sounds wonderful. That's a great synopsis of it.
Awesome. All right, so moving right along, report on Hawkins Cove and the Waterways Cabinet, and I can just share, and anyone else can. I attended the Waterways Cabinet, and we talked about Hawkins Cove. We talked about the challenges of the project and the dredging, the costs for that, and I suggested to the Public Works, Mr. Johnson, that most of these types of environmental sustainable developments are going to be really costly. That's why everybody doesn't do them. And so maybe if there could be a different sense of approach on the challenge and how to approach it and not look at it as a cost issue, in that whatever cost it is, it's pennies compared to what some other larger projects could be costing, or if it gets to a worse issue, the cost that it could put the city at. We also talked about the water access plan, that, like I mentioned, that Mr. Lashinsky presented. And again, my input for him and my feedback to him was, how is it going to be accessible for some of our people of color in the city, and safety, because a lot of times people walking in different waterfront properties, there could be different tensions there and unsureties, and just making sure that these water access points have some level of thought to safety, especially with what's been going on in places like Buffalo, New York, recently with the mass shooting that took place there. So just keeping some of these cultural activities in mind, how to make it accessible for some of the more underserved communities. And then Hawkins Cove. And so yeah, that in the Waterways Cabinet, that was all I would be reporting on that. Racine, or anyone else want to have?
Yeah, I can add some information on both Hawkins Cove and the Waterways Cabinet meeting. I will start with the Waterways Cabinet meeting. And again, what was discussed there was also very similar to what Ann reported. I'm sorry, I keep saying Ann, Allison reported out, that Director Johnson was there. Director Johnson, his last day with the city is June 10th. So he's not going to be with the city any longer.
Wow.
Marcia Patrick is going to at least be the interim for the time being, until they find someone to replace Director Johnson. He discussed the city's MS4 permit, and that's the municipal separate storm sewer systems program through with MDE. He talked about Greenvest and what Greenvest is doing for the city, which is updating the BMP database to MDE, which was their first priority, and which has been done pretty to a substantial level at this point, and will need to be updated as information comes in on BMPs. They've done outfall inspections. That's Greenvest. Let's see. They also, he talked about the stormwater program, where they're changing the type of sweepers that will be used by the city. Instead of just broom sweepers, they're switching to an advanced sweeping machine where it includes a vacuum function. And they're talking about installing alternate parking in areas that the sweeping, street sweeping takes place, because currently there's parking on both sides of the streets, and what the street sweeper tends to be able to sweep is the crown of a road and not the sides where debris tends to accumulate. So they're talking about sort of phasing in over time, alternate street parking, again, where the sweeping takes place. But that is something they're discussing right now. They don't have anything definitive yet as far as how they're going to handle the alternate street parking. We are making, he reported back that we are making process on the MS4 permit, that there is a requirement to treat 293.4, and I may be off a little bit, but 290-ish impervious acres that need to be treated for the permit, and that the city is on target to meet 310 impervious acres by 2023, which is the end of this permit that we're in right now, which is a 5-year permit. It started in 2018. Let's see here. He talked about Bmp maintenance, that the city would Well, it's sort of complicated that the city is going to sort of follow what the county is doing, and what the city will do for maintenance and what they won't be covering, like routine maintenance of mowing and that kind of thing is not going to be handled by the city, but structural maintenance, the city would cover for BMPs. There was a report during this meeting on the no discharge zone that it goes into effect as of July 1st, 2022. The enforcing bodies are the Coast Guard and the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. So if anyone ever sees someone dumping inappropriately into waters in Anne Arundel County and in and around Annapolis, they can contact either the Coast Guard or the Maryland DNR to enforce, to report that to. Let's see, the Department of Planning and Zoning has a new director. His name is Michael Laplace. He does like to be called Michael. Don't call him Mike if you can. Avoid that. Laplace is his last name. He introduced himself, and he's just sort of feeling his way through right now and getting a lot of reports on what's going on before he puts any outline on what he plans to do with planning and zoning. And then, as Randy said, Eric Lashinsky made a presentation about water access. It's called a water access project. He gave a report out about that. And that is, in short, talking about equal access to water throughout the city. And they've visited several spots. They've got sort of a ranking right now, but it's in preliminary stages. And again, they're in the preliminary stages of this water access project, but it will move forward. That's pretty much the Waterways Cabinet meeting that I have. And then with Hawkins Cove, right now with Hawkins Cove, Eric Lashinsky, and I helped him with it, and as well as DPW's Michael Rosberg. He's an engineer in DPW. He helped, we all helped Eric write a grant application for Hawkins Cove. So we're waiting to hear back about this grant application. It will cover sort of everything. Hopefully, we're not sure of the full cost of Hawkins Cove, but we asked for $500,000. It will cover the living shoreline and, other like repairs to piers and maybe some trail work, but it does not cover dredging. It is not part of that grant application, and we're waiting to hear back on that. That's all I have for Hawkins Cove and the Waterways Cabinet. I can tell you some information about the MER project as well. And I have a couple other things I wanted to update you on after that. The MER project is actually MIRR, and it stands for Military Installation Resilience Review. And that is a project that Jackie is working closely with the Naval Academy on, and it's all about resilience due to man-made emergencies as well as natural emergencies. That project, there was a meeting that was semi-regular, but there hasn't been a meeting in a while. And I think what it is that the project is on hold right now because the consultant is still collecting data. And once they are in a better position with the data that they've been looking for, then we'll go ahead and schedule another meeting between the city and the consultant and the Naval Academy. How's that so far? Okay. What else I wanted to tell you about? I've done a review recently on a new development that is going in on Forest Drive. It's called Willows at Forest Drive. It is located where Hilltop meets Forest Drive. If you're on Hilltop and you're facing Forest Drive at the light there where you can turn right at and then go toward, Safeway and all that. If you're at that light, that development is almost directly across the street on Forest Drive. It's affordable housing. What has happened is we've got the first set of designs for it. So I wouldn't say it's a full design. I don't know if one would call it 60% or 90%, but it's not a full design. But I did a report, not a report, but a review on behalf of Jackie. And if you have a pen, I can tell you, if you go into eTrack It, where you can find this development, and there are attachments to it that show you the plans, shows all the documents that have come in for it. I can say that from my review, they are including solar. At this phase of the design, they have not decided where the solar is going to be. And I don't think that they've really determined exactly how much solar is going in, but it's meant to also to help offset the cost of the standard electrical power supply for this project. Anne, you have a question?
I do. When we were reviewing the adjacent development that we used to call Crystal Springs, but isn't called that anymore.
That's Villages at Providence Point.
Thank you, ma'am. We talked a lot about the pathways on that site and their sort of pedestrian access to the stores along Forest Drive, and the engineer and the owner who spoke with us a few months ago talked about sort of working with the adjacent property owners to the Legion and over to the rest of that development about connectivity and right of way. And I wondered how you felt about, sort of pedestrian access and walkways and how things were connecting to the villages.
Okay, I'm not the official word on this, but the distance between the two developments is quite a bit. The Villages at Providence Point is going in up on Bay Ridge Road. There's a Bay Ridge Avenue and a Bay Ridge Road. Bay Ridge Road,
Okay.
I think, has the Giant. You know where the Giant is there? It's going across the street from the Giant there. But this new development is down near Spa Road.
Yeah, then we're talking, I mean to say,
I know what you're saying, Ann.
yeah, thank
This lot is directly adjacent to the Crystal Spring property.
you.
It's
Yeah.
in between the Crystal Spring property and the American Legion Post and Safeway and all that.
I think it was
Okay.
Skipper's Lane that they were talking about, connecting that through for
Thank you.
traffic, but
Right.
also pedestrian access.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, there's a park over there, Annapolis Walk Park, that, in order to get from this development to that park, you would take the side streets there, Skipper's Lane, Bell Drive, those roads there to get to the park. I don't know about connection between these two developments or trailways between these developments. I can check on it for you. I can check with, I'm not sure quite who to check with. I think Tom Smith would be a good person. Let me just make a note here really quick.
Okay, yeah, because I think Bill will chime in, but it seems like pedestrian access was a big discussion point for the Crystal Springs presentation, and I think that was approved as we saw it. So it would be, I think, important. And Racine, maybe what we should do as a follow-up item from the AEC is to write a letter to Planning and Zoning and the Planning Commission, letting them know that this is something that we're quite interested in making sure is part of the development review and approval of the site.
I think letters from the Environmental Commission about developments is always welcome. So if that's something you'd like to do, I think I would encourage you to go ahead and do that.
Okay. Thanks. And so would you, do you mind emailing us the full numbers and the name of this? And I think that we can easily find the draft of the letter that we wrote about Crystal Springs, and we can
I'm looking at the map. I see Crystal Spring Road. Okay, I'm sorry, Anne. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you saying?
I'm just saying, if you don't mind emailing us the development particulars and the e-tracket number again, I would, I'll offer to draft a brief letter saying that we're interested in some of those connections, pedestrian connections, and how the trails might connect and things, and we'll kind of leave it at that. But just so we remind everybody that we haven't forgotten that that was part of the overall plan.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I will get that information to you by Friday.
Thanks.
Okay.
And Racine, just so I'm
Yes.
clear, you're talking about this lot right here that
It's you see the paved piece there, because the Legion, I don't know if it's the American Legion or what, that is part of the development. So where you outlined plus that paved area is the development area.
Okay.
So where you're outlining now plus the paved area.
Okay.
That includes the building and includes that forest of trees, as I'm looking at it off to the left there.
Oh, so all the way up to Newtown Drive then?
Yes, that is the whole thing. And there is forest conservation for most of that, if not all of that forested area.
So
So
the building, the Legion isn't going to exist anymore? It's not going to be there?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because that's part of the property.
Okay, so they...
I learn as I get questions asked, and then I go ask questions. But my understanding is the project includes both those pieces. And most of the development is going to go over on the right side there that Bill was outlining first. It's going to go over there, and that's what I reviewed.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if it's abutting, Crystal Spring, a lot of the same issues that we had with Crystal Spring are probably true as well for here, in that, well, first of all, the hydrology flows this way, southbound.
Yeah, that area right there, based on the review I did, it's pretty flat. And if you sort of go from the center, the water goes to the left and to the right, depending on where you are on the property. But there is flow in the direction that you're talking about, generally in that area that was outlined initially without the paved area.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So did they buy the American Legion spot, or is that, I don't understand.
The American Legion, those questions I don't know how to answer, but I can look for answers for you.
Okay.
Well, I was just going to suggest, I think I'll look for our old letter about Crystal Springs and, the sort of paths and forest conservation, so we can recycle that. But Bill, since you were involved with the Crystal Springs from the beginning, if you would look at the plans, I think that would be useful. And I wonder if Bill, you or Paul want to reach out to Gerald and just see how those folks feel about this development?
Sure.
Who is Gerald?
Gerald Weingrad.
Who was that? I've never.
He's a former senator who's really led the effort to protect Crystal Spring.
Oh, former senator. Okay.
Right, he's quite an environmentalist, and he has been very protective of that area and has asked for some concessions that I think were incorporated into the design for the villages at Providence Point, because he was very outspoken about that.
Got it. And that's Gerald. What's his last name?
Weingrad, W-I-N-E-G-R-A-D as in David.
Got it.
Yeah, it seems like he would know that we were making I would just hate to not maximize all of the things that the environmental community has somehow managed to achieve at the Crystal Springs site by somehow inadvertently goofing something up at the smaller site next door. So
Yeah.
we just need to make sure everything's all connected.
So again, I would really welcome a letter about this from the commission, because this was the first go round of the design for the site. Review was done by planning and zoning and Department of Public Works, as well as Jackie and I in the city manager's office from an environmental perspective. So if we didn't cover this in the comments that we've already made, what's going to happen is they're going to answer the comments that were made, and we still can make comments if you'd like us to do that about the connectivity of trails.
And this has already been approved, this project?
Not at all, no.
Okay. So is
No.
that up for review? Is that what's
It's
happening?
under review. This is the first go round of the review. It's not a final design at all. This is I don't know what percentage they would say this design is, but it's not a full design.
I found it on eTrackit, and I also found a public meeting about this development. That's a YouTube from last June, so I can share that with everybody on the call.
Great.
Allison's on the ball.
On it, you heard me.
It's really good at Google.
Yeah, so we missed a meeting 11 months ago.
Okay, so I've got just a couple more things to let you know about. Paul was talking a little bit about parking in downtown Annapolis and potentially having electric vehicles. I know that somehow the electric ferry plays a role, but I don't have a lot of information about the electric ferry. I know that they were going to work on a plan for it as part of a transportation plan. So the Hillman Garage, of course, is coming down now. And so employees and of the different businesses downtown, including employees of the city, are parking at Park Place. And there is a circulator that is going from Park Place to downtown and back to Park Place, and there are stops in between. In the morning, I think the hours are between 6:30 and 9:30. There's a circulator that leaves Park Place every 10 minutes. From 9:30 till I don't want to be quoted. I think it's like 1:30 or 2:30. The circulator goes from Park Place to downtown and it has stops in between, leaving Park Place every 20 minutes. And then during, I guess, the evening rush hour, which would be 1:30 or 2:30 till 6:30, the circulator again leaves Park Place every 10 minutes to go downtown, and then there are stops in between. So as a way to sort of deal with parking issues, which there are going to be, at least initially, until everybody gets used to the fact that the garage is not available. There is some relief to be had, and people can still also park at Gott's Garage and walk downtown. I just wanted to let you know that's the situation right now with that. I know that, or I think that, well, I know that Alderman Savage is considering writing some legislation on holding zero waste events within the city of Annapolis. Jackie asked me to do a little bit of research on this, and I talked to the city attorney. And so what we can do is we can right now, without legislation being written, we can recommend different things, but we can't really require things like no plastic bottles and only boxed boxed water. Sorry, that's a Freudian slip. Boxed water that could be consumed at events or canned water. We can't require that kind of thing. The only thing that we can require is something that is a law or an ordinance of the city of Annapolis. And right now we don't have any requirements within the city of Annapolis for things like plastic bags or, versus compostable bags, or even plastic straws. We don't have anything in the legislation about that. So with the zero waste events right now, I'm not sure which direction Alderman Savage is going to go in. But right now, the only thing that we probably could require is no styrofoam, because we do have some legislation about styrofoam within the city of Annapolis. But the only thing about that, and I'd have to check with Jackie, who is also an attorney by training and also the city's attorney. The styrofoam legislation is written for restaurants and supermarkets and stores like that on when styrofoam can be used and when it can't be used. So again, I don't know what the specifics of that, whether we could really require something regarding styrofoam. And that's sort of where I am with that. I'm waiting to hear back on which direction Jackie and or Alderman Savage would like me to move with this within the city. That's all I have. I hope that's enough.
Yes. Yep. Thank you so much. Racine, does anyone have any comments or questions for Racine? And we have about 9 minutes left. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think Racine, there's like so many wonderful resources about how to have a waste-free event. I think that if, depending on what the sort of target is like, are they events on city-owned property, or are we talking about also all of the many venues in town and that result in waste that end up in public spaces, even if they begin?
Right. And I think that comes down to what direction Alderman Savage wants to go in, what he wants to target. And I don't have an understanding of that yet. I did also find out by talking to Felicia Nolan. She's sort of the special events person in the mayor's office. When I asked about if the legislation were to address events of a certain size, her feedback on that was the size doesn't always matter. It really sort of depends on what type of event it is, because not each event is created equal. Not every event is going to have vendors with food. Not each event, every event is going to be producing water or, selling water. It goes event by event rather than addressing specific sizes.
Yeah, and I don't want to, jump on Bill's favorite topic, but I think that one of the challenges with this, or I'm not sure how one addresses that, sometimes the events, they generate a lot of waste, but they also have infrastructure. So there's, folks who are working, or there are extra barrels and recycling things. And sometimes it's the Saturday lacrosse fair at the Germantown Fields that isn't like an event, but actually produces far more waste, but there isn't the sort of infrastructure in place to like process
Right.
these appropriately.
Right.
And so, that's probably like sort of a different category of issue
Right.
to address.
And another issue that came up is that the city does have vendors for getting rid of waste. One, like sort of food scraps. The city works with a company, and what we have to be careful of is if we recommend doing certain activities to address zero waste. And, the big question is the haul away, the cleanup of it all. The city has to be very careful about actually recommending a contractor, because we don't want to favor any one contractor over another. So that's another issue that might come into play.
Makes sense.
All right. Does anybody have any other thoughts or feedback for Racine? Great. Thank you, Racine, very much. Allison, did you have something?
I was just going to say thank you for such a thorough report.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so we did not quite get around to the DEIJ discussion. What I will report on that is just that we have a CCNP conference coming up, which will have a strong emphasis on environmental diversity in the environmental industry. There'll be a plenary session that I'll be facilitating on the full breadth of environmental challenges as it relates to creating more diversity in the workforce. And I'll be hosting a panel on the state of diversity in Chesapeake Bay watershed. And that's a pretty star-studded event. A lot of great people will be there, experts and leaders in the industry. Kamara Thomas will be on the panel, Darius Stanton, Vince Leggett, Dr. Kelton Clark, Richard Allen, and a few others. That's about it. Did anyone have anything else that they wanted to chime in here? I think we have our list of to-dos here, and I look forward to next month where we can report out and have a further discussion on things. I think the meeting went very well, and a lot of great information shared here. So I want to applaud you all. I really appreciate everyone's individual efforts here. It's much appreciated. I know we all have busy lives. This is Anne's last meeting, is that correct? No? Okay.
Next time.
Got it. So we're gonna have some kind of farewell for Anne. She's like, nah, y'all not doing that.
One day we'll see each other in
You
person.
can't stop us, Anne. You can't stop us.
That's good.
It'll be hopefully somewhere outdoors and somewhere hopefully family fun place. Maybe we could bring our families out. I think that we all have families. We should bring our families together. So maybe something we could do outdoors.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I might be on the road. I'm not sure if I'll make it to the June meeting. So just in case I don't, we'll miss you, Anne. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll see you, I'm sure.
We'll throw Anne a waste-free going away party. Show them how it's done.
That's good.
Love it.
Also, I just want to let you know, I'm sorry. There's one last thing. If you'll just bear with me. There's an email about testing for PFAS in the city's drinking water. if you'll allow me to read the email, and then I'll summarize it at the end there. But the city of Annapolis's drinking water was tested for PFAS in October 2013 as part of the EPA's Unregulated Contaminants Monitoring Rule 3 program. The 1996 Safe Drinking Water Act amendments require that once every 5 years, EPA issue a new list of no more than 30 unregulated contaminants to be monitored by public water systems. The third unregulated contaminant monitoring rule was published in May of 2012, and it requires monitoring for 30 contaminants, 28 of them are chemicals and 2 viruses. Between 2013 and 2015. It says that perfluoroalkyl, which is PFOA, and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which is PFOS, which together are known as PFAS, are a class of man-made chemicals not found naturally in the environment. And the 2 PFAS chemicals that have been the most extensively produced are PFOA and PFOS. They also test for 4 other chemicals. And what happened in October 2013 is that Annapolis was selected to participate in the mid-sized public water systems to be tested. And there were no perfluorinated compounds found to be present in the city of Annapolis's drinking water in October 2013. The EPA is now reviewing PFAS data, and they have not yet finalized any rules regarding the testing frequency or maximal contaminant of PFAS in drinking water. So essentially, the water was tested for PFAS back in October 2013. We came up clean for PFAS, which is PFOA and PFOS. I don't know when the next testing is going to happen because the EPA actually has not come out with any sort of regulation on the timing of testing public water systems for these chemicals. I'm going to forward this email to you so you can read it for yourself, but wanted to let you know that.
Great, thank you so much. That's a very extensive report, and thank you so much. And
oh, is he gone? Did he hang up? Okay, well, I guess we're coming to the end. You guys have to.
Yeah, I think his time expired. I do think that was the end of our agenda for tonight. It sounded like Randy was going to do his DEIJ update via email, given the time. So I guess I'll jump in my vice chair role. Are there any objections to adjourning tonight's meeting?
I move to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
All right. Hearing no objections, we will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you, Racine. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. And we look forward to chatting at our June meeting and hearing all of our report outs and our recruitment efforts between now and then. So thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great long weekend.
Thank you.